Isles of Zool. Islands. Spirit Island with dice.
Spirit Island with dice. Well, that's my favorite game. And my favorite cubed thing. Well, other than ham. Let's review Uprising, Curse of the Last Emperor. Whoa! This is incredible. It's already set up for me. Thank you, little Ben. Okay, back to the pipes. There he goes. This is Uprising, Curse of the Last Emperor, a 4X game that you can play with 1, 2, 3, or 4 players. In this challenging, constantly evolving puzzle, you will control a hero leading a rebellion against an evil empire. But don't worry, there's no Death Star in this game, which would be the 4th Death Star. They made 3 of those things. What? I know Starkiller Base wasn't technically a Death Star, you don't need to comment, but come on, big laser shoot planets, it's a Death Star. Anyway, it's tough enough to try to overthrow a fascist regime, but guess what? There's bad stuff in the other direction too. The Empire spreads outward from the capital, while the hordes of chaos invade from the frozen wastes. Wherever you turn, you're gonna find enemies more deadly than the last. It'll take your wits, your courage, and a ladle full of luck to get through this thing with a win. How do you play? Well, some legal disclaimers first. Please. Come. The review you are watching now does not come with any monetary transaction between myself and publisher Nemesis Games. However, they did send me the base game, its expansions, and its upgrade packs free of charge. Now, will I allow this very kind gesture to influence my review at all? No. Okay, it was really cool to get that stuff in the mail. I'm a pretty small YouTube channel, so that was pretty tight. I liked that a lot. But I have done everything in my power to separate my glee from receiving boxes from my cold, hard board gaming logic. And don't you worry, I do have criticisms that I'm sure will forever damage my relationship with this publisher, so you have that to look forward to. Back to you in the studio. Hey, how come they don't sphere ham? They just cube it. I'm on. You gotta go. Go. Goodbye. There's a lot going on in the gameplay of Uprising, and I'm not here to explain all of it. I just want to get across the feeling of playing. I linked the how to play video that I used to learn this game in the description, so give that a watch. It's a really good video, really well done. Speed teach time. Uprising is broken up into phases, the steps of which are helpfully laid out along this side of the board. There are some reset and setup phases to start each chapter, where you'll reveal baddies and prepare your forces to fight them. Then we come to the action phase. This is when the gameplay starts, so this is where we're gonna camp out for a second. Every action you take requires you to spend one of your 8 action points, and these actions on the right end your turn after you take them. Moving your hero or trading doesn't end your turn. You can do these and then one of the right side actions. The end your turn actions are Command to move your units, Explore to flip hexes and find out what's waiting in new regions, Haven to build a resource generating haven on a hex empty of any units that don't belong to you, Market to buy items from the shop, and Quest to send your hero on a quest that can better position you in the game. I may be going a little too fast, so let's examine the command and quest actions more closely. Commanding is one of the main ways combat is initiated in this game, although it will also often happen when enemies enter your hexes. You thought you were in control here? Combat is pretty simple. First, check the terrain you're in. Some types have no effect, while others make it easier or harder to fight with certain units. Then, a single round of archery. Any units on either side with this bow and arrow symbol will fire a volley of shots at the enemy. You can really set yourself up for success if you bring archers into a fight where the enemy can't do ranged combat. You might be able to weaken them or even take them out before the real fighting even begins. In combat, the possible results are blank, nothing. Skull, deal 1 damage. Shield, block 1 incoming damage. Bolt, cancel an opponent's shield or activate a special power. And if you have the Titans of the First Age expansion, Star. Wild. You choose the result. In this particular combat, I have 2 ranged units and I'm going up against a garrison. There's a handy little chart over here which tells me that a single garrison rolls 1 white die in the archery phase. That means I'm rolling 2 white dice and the enemy rolls 1. Ooh, unlucky. I rolled blanks and the enemy dealt a damage. I choose where to allocate the damage, so let's lose one of our archers. Then you go to the clash phase where both sides will roll dice over and over until one side is dead. Our handy chart tells us that a single garrison rolls a white and a blue die in this phase, while I'm rolling 3 blue and 1 white die. Okay, so the enemy rolled 2 hits and a block, and I rolled 3 hits and a block, which, when you do the math, that means that they hit me once and I hit them twice. They only take 1 damage, so they are dead, but unfortunately, one of my guys is also dead. Items and special abilities spice up combat a little bit, but that's the gist. And now the other main reason that you'll roll your dice: quests. These are the currently available quests, and they'll refresh with each new chapter. To go on a quest, you'll roll dice based on your hero's attributes and attempt to meet a certain number of quest goals depending on the quest. Basically, that means in order to solve this quest, I need to roll either 3 skulls, or 1 shield, or 1 bolt. This quest is tougher to do because I need to complete 2 out of the 3 quest goals to succeed, either 3 skulls and a shield, 3 skulls and a bolt, or a shield and a bolt. If you successfully solve the quest, you will get the rewards under your completed quest goals and the solve effect. Let's try to solve this one. I need 3 skulls, 1 shield, or 1 bolt. And that's a failure. If you fail, you get no quest rewards and you process the fail effect. You may have also noticed this little section at the bottom of the card. Every quest has a way to add a bonus die to your attempt, provided your hero is positioned correctly. In other words, you can make it more likely that you'll solve quests by planning your hero's movement around the quests that you want to do. And that's quests. Hey, this game seems pretty fun. It sure would be a shame if something came along to ruin it. Yeah, here's the thing. You are not just going up against garrisons and the chaos equivalent skeletons. In addition to those more easy to deal with minions, there are hordes of chaos and legions of the Empire. Generally speaking, the hordes of chaos appear at the edges of the map and move inward, while the legions of the Empire appear in the capital and advance outward from there. Anything either of these sides kill will give them victory points. And, as if that wasn't enough, every single time they move, they will leave garrisons or curses in their wake, which, guess what, also generate victory points. Please note, I said anything these sides kill, and I said that, if you were listening, because Chaos and the Empire don't just hate the player factions, they also hate each other. They're not working together. If you play cleverly, you'll steer the Empire toward Chaos forces and vice versa, weakening up your opposition and allowing you to deal the killing blow. But make sure it is you that deals the killing blow. The terrifying Bloodworm is worth 4 victory points, so you probably don't want to let the Empire take that guy out. If you want designers Cornelius, Pavel, and Dirk to personally come to your house, shake your hand, and give you a check for $1 million, then every single player needs to end the game with more victory points than both Chaos and the Empire. And if that stuff with the check and the handshake and the designers doesn't happen, then I don't know, maybe you cheated. It always worked for me. You'll earn points by killing enemies, having intact havens, doing certain quests, and at the end of the game, you can try to scrape together a win by converting some of your resources into points. That's enough teaching. You get the picture. There's a you do stuff phase, then a stuff happens to you phase. Let's frickin' review this sucker. First, the positives, and they are significant. A game having an interesting theme, good artwork, and even strong mechanisms doesn't necessarily mean it's fun to play. It needs a satisfying gameplay loop for that. This threat management style of gameplay is exactly why I love Spirit Island so much. There are multiple problems all over the board, almost always, and you have to figure out the best path through them. And the central loop that allows you to tackle these problems here is really enjoyable. I love building up my forces, plotting the best moves for my heroes and my units to maximize quest bonuses and terrain advantages, and the item shop very rarely has anything in it that you don't want at least a little. Even the cheapest one-time use items catch your attention and might be enough to turn a battle in your favor. Also, you may have noticed with all the different enemies and units and items and feats and resources and terrain, there's a lot going on, and that's all just base game stuff. Expansions add in Banes and allies and mercenaries and arch nemeses and alternate capital tiles and... Suffice to say, even though there is a lot, the things that you can do on your turn are simple, easy to understand, and blissfully easy to teach. The other thing I think this game gets really right is the balance between predictability and unpredictability. What I mean is that there are a lot of reveals where you have a pretty good idea of what's coming, but you're never totally sure. Take exploration, for example. When your hero is positioned on an unrevealed hex, you flip it. All of the hexes have a resource icon on the back of them, which tells you what resource you will immediately get when you flip it, and also what resource it will generate if you put a haven on it. But you never know exactly how many of the resource you're going to get. Some hexes give you a flat 2, other ones ask you to roll your hero dice and then take as many resources as you rolled skulls, and that's just the good stuff. After getting your resources, a bad thing will happen. You might run into garrisons or skeletons. That's what happens most of the time. But who knows? Maybe a whole legion or horde will spawn somewhere. Or maybe all the skeletons on the board will activate. Those things are unlikely, but not impossible. And that makes every exploration action a little scary. And yet, this positive also segues us into our criticisms. Unpredictability when you're dealing with a few tiles out of 30 makes for a fun, exciting risk. Unpredictability when you're dealing with dice means that you can have wildly different games depending only on how the board game gods are feeling on that given day. I have won games easily on nightmare difficulty. I have lost games badly on normal difficulty. It's these assholes. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't point out that expansions add modules that mitigate luckiness. So just keep that in mind as I make my next points. I'll talk more about customizability in a second. Uprising can be harder or easier for you depending on the difficulty level you choose at the start of the game, but you also cannot forget about the impact that luck is going to have. I've planned as much as a little guy like me can plan, and I have still been walloped, waylaid, and whomped by bad rolls. I talked to Cornelius Kremen, one of the designers of this game. First, thank you so much for speaking with me. And he said that he and the other designers, when they play together, they play on the hardest difficulty with all the stuff thrown in, and they have about a 60% win rate. Let me be clear. Difficult is not bad. 60% win rate is not bad. But for me, losing a 3-hour game because of luck, it just doesn't feel great. Of course, if I've played the game as much as Cornelius, Dirk, and Pavel have, I'm sure I would lose the game less due to luck. But as it stands, I would call myself competent in the world of Uprising, and I can't confidently say that a clever strategy will win me most games. Those critiques were shared with some other people who played Uprising's first edition, and so very much to their credit, the designers addressed those concerns with their first expansion. Titans of the First Age adds a few modules that you can use in any combination of your choice. The two that specifically mitigate randomness are Aether and these new dice. The new dice, which you'll roll on certain quests or thanks to certain feats, have a wild result, meaning that you can choose the best thing for you in the moment. Aether is, I think, an ingenious new resource that you can spend to reroll any die roll you make. You have to reroll all of your dice, so it's best used when you get super unlucky and you just want a full mulligan. The reason I think it's so clever is because the way you generate Aether is directly determined by how bad the game is going for you. If Chaos has more points than any player, take some Aether. Legions in play? Have a little Aether. Lots of skeletons all around? Aether. The intent here is clear and it's great. If you're on the back foot, you're a little bit luckier, and if you're already winning, you gotta be a little bit more careful. These new additions, great ideas. It really sounds like they solve all the problems that I had with the base game. In my experience, they ended up swinging the game a little bit too much in the favor of the players. These expansions showed up after the base game, so I haven't played with them quite as much as I've played base Uprising, but I've still monkeyed with them quite a bit. And in my experience, every game I played with these modules included was a bit easier than I wanted. In one game that I played on Nightmare difficulty, I realized that if I did nothing during the entire 4th chapter, I would still win. It was impossible for me to lose no matter what happened. But I did say that these things are modular, and the expansions don't only add in modules to make the game easier. There are also banes to make baddies more bad, and arch nemeses if you want to be scared all the time. What I'm trying to say is that I'm sure there's a combination of base game and modules that creates the perfect game for me. One that is challenging, but not impossible, winnable, but not in a landslide. For me, I never really found that magical combination. A majority of my games were either easier than I wanted or harder than I wanted. And that is a pretty massive critique. I'm just trying to be clear here because the next thing I'm going to say is going to sound like really nice, and it's meant to, but just like don't discount this factor. Overall, I enjoy this game enough to keep playing it. It takes a little while to set up, it takes a few hours to play, and it doesn't always result in satisfaction for the entirety of its runtime. But I want to find that perfect combination. I want to figure out which modules to play with and which ones to leave out that results in a game that is fun from top to bottom a majority of the time. And I think it exists. Like, it's somewhere in here. And I have enough fun playing the game that I'm willing to endure a few more landslide wins or losses to try to find it. If the core gameplay sounds fun to you, I think you're gonna dig this game. If it was like that all the time, I think this would be an 8.5 out of 10 for me. If the potential for blowout victories or defeats sounds like it could get a little frustrating, consider steering clear. But also keep in mind there is a free version that you can play on Tabletop Simulator created by Nemesis Games themselves if you just want to try it out. Factoring in both sides of the coin, this one lands at a 7.5 out of 10 for me. Great production, brilliant core systems, and a really cool theme, but with a few more games that end with, well, than I would like. If you want to snag this game for yourself, it is not currently in print, but wait, don't rush out to pay exorbitant secondhand market prices because the designers have informed me that another campaign is coming for this soon. Expect that before the end of 2025. Okay, super duper quick here at the end. What do I think you need as far as expansions, upgrades, all that stuff goes if you are planning to get the base game? First of all, wooden upgrade tokens. Really nice. I really enjoy playing with these, but cardboard tokens would be just fine. You could get by no problem with cardboard tokens. Similar vein, these curse miniatures, they're painted, they look beautiful, but the curse acrylic standees also are great. Like, I think it is even less than the wood tokens. I think you need the curse miniatures. You are just fine with the standees because the standees are great across the board in this game. Then you've got the player trays. Of the quality of life upgradey stuff, this is the one that I recommend the most. Again, you can definitely get by without it, but it does like help reduce table space a little bit by having your like feet and item cards lifted up and more vertical. It just makes everything a little bit less space takey uppy. If you have like a normal sized table, that might be very essential. Okay, and then that's like upgrade stuff. As far as expansion new gameplay content goes, I say the Titans of the First Age expansion, that's the one that you should probably get. If I were buying this for myself, that is the one that I would want to buy and purchase. It adds a couple new factions, which is very fun for spice and variety, but then it has all those modules that let you regulate your difficulty levels, and I think that is the expansion that I will use to get that perfect difficulty whenever I figure that out. That's how I'll do it through that expansion. I do think you should grab it. The Arch Nemesis expansion, You know, I can talk. That one is also cool, but I think less like necessary than the Titans expansion. I would say if you have played this game Into the Ground and you want new stuff, go for it. Or if you're planning to play this game Into the Ground, grab that one, sure. But if you're just planning to play this like a normal amount, I don't really think you need it. And it just, for me, just kind of adds more stuff. So that's what I think about that. Well, lots of thoughts about this game. If you have played Uprising before, please let me know in a comment down below what your modules of choice are and whether or not you have found the right recipe for the funnest games. Thank you very much. And if you haven't played Uprising, please let me know what your favorite brand of cubed ham is. And speaking of cubed ham, oh, Tiny Ben! I have a feast for you. Where are you?
Genuinely, thank you so much for watching. I put a lot of work into these videos, so please leave a like and consider subscribing. Now, even though it weighs more than I do, I think I have a cube of ham to eat. Toodaloo!
Yum, yum, yum.